All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back once more to the Overwatch Open. In our semifinals right now, watching NRG versus Fnatic. And in the first game, it was a dominant performance by Fnatic. NRG looking to lick their wounds as we move to Hollywood, a map that in the past, John, NRG has done pretty well on as well.
Yeah, they do have the opportunity now to basically summon up the courage to actually come back in this. But right now, based on that performance on Dorado, it just felt a little bit lacking. It almost felt like I don't even know I can put a finger on it. Something wasn't gelling for them. We're used to seeing those clutch plays. We didn't see like the big crazy Seagull play. We didn't see the big crazy Gods play. Instead, we just kept seeing one-way traffic over and over again. So they need to pick themselves up and change something drastically in their mindset right now.
Well, overall, I'd say a few things here. That we mentioned problems that Gods had, but looking overall at NRG as a team, things that they had problems on. Number one, of course, is that you look at a lot of their fights. They lost someone early in the fight without doing real damage. It's one thing to lose someone early in a fight, as long as he's done damage to the backline or created distraction, but oftentimes NRG would just give up picks really early on without any sort of major event happening to make that worthwhile. And when that happens, when you give up a free pick, it just drains a good 30, 40 seconds off the clock and makes it difficult to come back. And that happened multiple times on Dorado and was a big contributing factor as to why NRG wasn't able to pull it out. Hopefully they're able to sort of identify that and fix it as we go into Hollywood.
Well, right now, Hollywood, of course, the first point, traditionally very, very attacker favorite. It's very rare that we see a full hold there. And a lot of it is going to come down to how teams adjust to the verticality of the middle stage, the streets phase. And I think you mentioned this as well. In fact, all of us mentioned that a lot of it is down to when does a defending team know that the first point is about to get taken out,
right,
and then they pull back and actually get set up, versus everybody dying defending the point and not having enough time to go back, right?
Right, you bring up a good point there. Hollywood is a map that is about momentum. What is momentum, you might ask? Well, momentum is where if you give up the first point in a terrible team wipe, everyone goes down, you let the offense cap with 3 and then send 3 people to the rooftops, and it can really mess with your defensive positioning. Whereas compared to if you know you're going to lose the point no matter what, you can actually go back and go, okay, we're losing this. We're going to put 3 people up top and actually secure things before the offense can go in, and you can really stymie a lot of momentum because on Hollywood, if you're not able to hold in on first, you can still have a great chance for holding for a very long time in the streets phase.
Exactly right. And there are all sorts of great opportunities for the defense to pop on down. Basically, think about street phase on Dorado. A lot of the stuff that happens there can also happen on Hollywood. Your surprise Death Blossoms, some really nice Genji ultimates coming out of nowhere, Deadeye from behind if the Reinhardt isn't looking in the correct direction with a shield. So all sorts of fun and games will have the potential to pop out here on Hollywood. We'll have to wait and see what happens. But the situation at the moment is this. NRG currently, with their backs against the wall, 1-0 down. They need to improve their performance drastically. The good news is that we know they're capable of doing it. The question is, have they changed their mindset quickly enough?
We'll just have to see. I think certainly one matchup that they will have to improve on a little bit is that we saw it in the first game. The matchup, hitscan wars between Gods and IDD-QD, firmly went in favor of IDD-QD, so that's something where Gods is going to have to up his level play a bit. NRG as a whole, they're going to have to try and avoid pickoffs as early on. And really for them, best chance here. It is very difficult to hold first point in Hollywood, but they're going to have to at least try and buy time for 1 or 2 wipes here just to give themselves a little bit more space and pacing for the streets phase and last to come.
The one thing I will permit myself to be a little bit giddy over, I always love seeing Seagull Junkrat on this map. It brings joy to me.
Seeing Junkrat in general is pretty fun. He's fallen out of favor for a lot of teams, but on first points like Hollywood, you do still see him from time to time, and it's great, especially when you see a Junkrat get a pick or 2 early on just from pure spam alone. But right now, Fnatic moving in, IDD-QD already going in on the flank, the rest of Fnatic coming in through the main gate, and IDD-QD just no fear of the enemy. McCree goes right in, Enigma falls to cool mat early on. Quick pick here for Fnatic, Milo strikes back, but this is rough for the defense. Even if the attackers were to fall now, they would have a respawn advantage, but that might not even be happening.
I really, really love what IDD-QD just did. I'll chat about that in just a second because it looks like oh man, I think we got a sticky on the pulse bomb, and Dummy actually getting a double kill there, and Seagull, so it looks like we're fighting back on the part of NRG. If they're able to hold this, that would be amazing. Dummy going down though, and IDD-QD continuing on 19 hit points there to still rock the damage. He is absolutely unstoppable right now. Man, this guy, what did he have for breakfast?
I don't know, but whatever it is, certainly makes for good tracer play, and The problem is here, looking at this from the NRG side, is that they've lost so many people that Fnatic will be able to use a respawn advantage to their advantage, get on the point, flood in there, and reinforce quicker. And that's exactly what happens. Even though NRG was able to fight things back a little bit, it just wasn't enough because of how long it took them to go from their spawn back to the point.
So what I thought was really cool, by the way, from IDDQD, he started off not by getting in the face, but just hitting from medium range against Pooks and Dummy, and you saw them move back into the security hut, right? That completely and utterly exposed the back of the Reinhardt, and it was at that point that IDDQD went in and did a lot of damage. That was so smart. He wasn't looking to get the kills, he was distracting them and pushing them away.
Exactly, and the other thing about that flanking distraction too is that it also made a little bit more room for the front line to come in, and it almost certainly contributed to Coolmac getting his first kills. So overall, things going very well for Fnatic. They have a huge ultimate advantage going the Streets phase, and for NRG, they have to hope for an early pick or something here to turn this into their favor. But here comes Buds coming out the flank, Dragon Blade at the ready, throwing in those slashes, looking for Zen. Will force out the Transcendence at the very least. Not going to get too much in the way of kills here to start this off. But anytime you force out support ult, it's usually not the worst. But NRG handling this pretty well. 3 kills to 1 right now in their favor, and they should hold.
Oh, and Seagull just, well, basically icing on the cake at this point. Only Stoop and Custer currently still alive. Admittedly, Stoop is rather scary once you have Primal Rage popped on the Winston, but he will disappear as well, and that will allow NRG to get firm control of the rooftops. Now, that was particularly important because at the start of that engagement, ZP, Fnatic had complete and utter high ground advantage.
They did. Fnatic also had a huge ultimate advantage, so I can't even overemphasize how big of a swing that was for NRG. They went from very likely to lose that battle off positioning and ultimates to winning it, and it worked out incredibly well. Now they have all the defensive ultimates in their side, so big swing here in the game. Fnatic, a little bit of trouble. God's able to take out Monothil early on this fight. IDDQD, though, once more, and Tracer picks up the double kill, and there's not been a good answer for him yet from the side of NRG.
Yeah, and at the moment, I feel like it's actually Seagull that seems to have been on support duty. He did 90% of the damage on Monothil before Gods grabbed the last, and he was also looking for Custer as well. So keep that as a bit of a theme as we see Seagull potentially pop right back out here. Almost second point, but we are, of course, going to see NRG try and stop this right again. But we have the sound barrier coming out now, and that's going to be on the side of Fnatic to try and prevent NRG from retaking here. And they immediately get picks up on every hero with an ultimate there. So Dummy, Enigma, Gods all going down. That leaves Seagull, who's just gotten his Dragon Blade, but he ain't going to fight 1v6.
Yeah, Seagull was looking for the Dragon Blade, but the problem was that so many people on NRG got picked off early in that fight that there was really no point Dragon Blading. He might have been able to do it, maybe get 1 kill, but he wasn't going to stop the push, so he just had to save it here. And for NRG, this is rough. They have not bought themselves enough time here to really solidly come back. They need to hope for much more time to be bought here on last. Otherwise, if Fnatic wins this in the next push or two, it's going to be not impossible, but pretty darn close for NRG to actually pull back the series.
We should keep in mind that there's a lot of stuff that is possible on this last point. There's a nice little ledge where you can actually drop down Buds with the opportunity here potentially. He's looking for that as well. But that does mean that Enigma has the possibility of doing similar as well. But right now it looks like it's just going to be a full face-on engagement. Transcendence coming down from Fnatic, and Seagull looking for opportunities to chop, but he can't find any at the moment, unfortunately. He's only got a second left, and he manages to get one slice off, but it will not be enough to get those kills, and he gets taken out by Snoop.
The problem is that Custa used the Transcendence in response to Dragon Blade. He had absolutely nothing he could go in after. He basically traded Dragon Blade directly for Transcendence, which isn't bad, but look at Fnatic. They're piling on the kills. They're chaining them.
Oh,
Stoop and IDDQD in the back line. It is absolute pandemonium, and that's going to be an incredibly quick time being set here by Fnatic. That is a sub 5-minute tie. I think that's about 4 minutes, 46 seconds, something in that ballpark.
Ragdoll physics on Seagull to close that out in slow motion as well. I mean, that did look, well, it is Hollywood. I guess he does all his own stunts.
Yeah, it is. And I don't know. I don't think there's too much to say here. It's just IDDQD got way too much work on his Tracer. They did not have an answer. Usually that answer does have to come from the other hit scan player to keep the Tracer honest. They weren't able to deal with it really for most of the game, and in general, they were chaining deaths at points where they didn't need the chain deaths. It was not a good look for NRG just in general.
Now, which player, moving into the second half of Hollywood here, are you assigning to IDDQD duty if you're in the shoes of NRG here?
Well, here's the thing, is that if you can't rely on your own hit scan player, the neutralize and dominating hit scan player for the other team, you definitely have to have your tanks dive in on him more. Like, for example, if Milo is going to be staying in here on the Winston, I think that they have to make getting in on IDDQD more of a priority. Now, obviously, as on McCree, it's a little bit easier. Getting in on a Tracer is harder. I mean, at that point, you basically have to take out the Tracer with something that has good, solid hit scan shots from range, because there's not much else I'll deal with there. Maybe You don't see it as much in this meta. Maybe even put Enigma on a Roadhog or something, but people are pretty shy about actually bringing out Roadhog when Zenyatta can make him your team's best ult generator. So.
That's very true indeed. Enigma, of course, good on both of those heroes, but we will see him on Zarya on this occasion. Fnatic getting set up. Reasonably standard composition coming out of them here. Their tanks are going to be Reinhardt and Zarya, and we, of course, have Lucio as well as Zenyatta on support. And then finally, Buds and IDDQD once again on Reaper and McCree.
Alrighty, well, the gates are about to open here in 4 seconds. NRG having to beat that time of 4-4-4, all fours on the board. They are going to have to move quickly. They can suffer maybe one wipe here on first, but any more than that, it's going to be rough. And beyond that, they just don't have much of a margin for error. Maybe a margin of 4 wipes at best. It's rough here for NRG. It's still very possible to beat this, but they need to be efficient and they can't lose much.
That is true. God's now on Tracer. Hasn't been having the best tournament so far, so he'll be looking to try and get a couple of kills on the board. He's looking basically to become the IDDQD of this situation. He's moving on up. We'll see if he can get a good flank in. In the meantime, Seagull moving in, looking for Discord Orb, but unfortunately that disappears up the stairs. Custer will get killed off in the meantime, and Reinhardt is absolutely going for Genji. It looks like he actually got taken out by the Steel Beam.
IDDQD with 2 kills early on, as well as a whole lot of poke into the NRG side. They've done enough damage here. NRG has to back out and regroup. God's backing out in turn. And just good solid play here coming out from Fnatic. Lots being done by IDDQD.
Both sides building ultimates right now. Gods and Seagull both about 2/3 of the way. I wouldn't say either side is particularly ahead, so at the very least, no ground was lost there by NRG, but they need to make something happen, and they need to do it quickly. And here we go. Stoop actually going in very deep on Reinhardt, but the rest of the team going with him, making it okay. And IDDQD absolutely taking Dummy's head off, and Pooks as well. Unbelievable stuff coming out from him. It's almost like he's invisible and no one can see him.
He donned his cloak of invisibility, went to the back line, just executed both supports in turn. And this is the power of a hit scan player that is well and on his game right now. IDDQD has been lightning in this game, and NRG has not been able to do anything about it.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I mean, this is ridiculous coming out from him. And now he's just playing the long-range McCree. He's saying, now that you notice I'm here, I'm just going to patiently sit around in the back. Let's see if he can get anything out of the high noon. It looks like NRG are staying well and truly out of the way. Now, Gods does have a Pulse Bomb available. Seagull also with some delicious sushi blade. So we'll see if they can make that happen. IDDQD going up to the first floor. Now, Transcendence actually coming out as well for Fnatic. They're going to try and collapse in on NRG right now. Good flashbang. Milo goes down. And Gods, oh my goodness. This is ridiculous. He solemnly swears he is up to no good, and NRG can't get a word in edgeways.
And again, just to draw a point of comparison to when the roles were reversed and Gods was on IDDQD, or sorry, when Gods was on McCree and IDDQD was on the Tracer, Gods had trouble punishing IDDQD in the way that IDDQD just punished Gods.
Yeah.
His name is a tongue twister.
It definitely is. Say that 3 times fast. Graviton Surge coming out now. Transcendence is popping out, and it looks like the teams are just going to be trading kills, but IDDQD grabbing 2 in the middle of that, and Stoop doing nothing but swinging the hammer. Will get 1 more off on Dummy. It's actually 3 versus 1 right now as Pooks making the rather solitary walk of shame back to the spawn.
And at the very end, we saw Gods trying to go on the flank once more, immediately punished by IDDQD. 1 minute left here for NRG, and forget about the overall time here, which already might be mathematically eliminated. A minute 45 is not much to go from point A to the end, but they might lose here just on point A period. Either way, Milo going in. This is certainly the last gasp here for NRG. They must win this fight. Enigma, though, goes down very early. Gods in the backline on the Custa. It is back and forth. It is now a 4v4. Gods with the Pulse Bomb at the ready, looking to make his mark. Seagull gets a double kill in the backline. And finally, NRG is going to get in here. A nice Pulse Bomb by Gods at the end. Takes out Buds.
Is it too little too late, though? I mean, Gods made his mark. He was waiting for the opportunity. He did seize it, but look at the clock CP. This is so painful right now for NRG.
It is incredibly painful for NRG, because here's the thing. Even if they cleanly cap this, which it's looking like they will, with a minute left, I'm not even sure it's mathematically possible to bring this to the end. They're going to try regardless, but next team wipe will be GG for Fnatic, and NRG will be out of the tournament, losing 2 games in a relatively swift fashion. Because again, mathematically, I just don't think NRG can actually bring this from here to the end.
A little bit of extra DPS now. Stoop actually going on to Soldier 76. And why? It's because we want to get that much more early damage so that we can basically send these guys home ASAP. Only 35 seconds left to go. Transcendence now coming out from Fnatic. They want to end this right here and absolutely put it beyond all doubt. Enigma and Godzo getting the first 2 picks off, and Enigma suddenly shining through. Seagull now coming through with the sword play as well, but it won't be enough. He's going onto the roof and then comfortably sheaving it because they realize they don't have time.
A little bit of hellos here on the top. Always good sportsmanship.
Put away the sword. We're friendly.
He did put away at the very end. It's like, he had to think about it. It's like, just get thrown.
Oh yeah, that's who you are. All right, so NRG, they're getting held by Fnatic, who have a tremendous series. And I have to say, Fnatic are looking even better than we thought they might.
They looked great. Clearly, their entire team was playing pretty well with each other. But again, I hate harping on this because I feel like I've talked about it a whole lot in the series. But you look at the comparisons between the matchups between IDD, QD, and Gods there. IDD, QD was a force on both sides, both attack and defense. And really, there was no answer for NRG. And yeah, the double coat, that was beautiful.
This guy cannot miss right now. He's doing fantastically well. And there is a reason why this highlight reel is basically the IDDQD show. Yeah. What an absolutely stellar individual play. And even though they were in a situation where maybe the opposing DPS player didn't quite live up to scratch, I think we also have to say, to his credit, IDDQD possibly MVP in that match?
Very much MVP in that match. And speaking who's the MVP of our desk, let's throw it here to Machine. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm trying to do like a gang sign like MV. P's are hard, actually. P's are hard. Thank you, though. ZP calling me MVP as we see IDDQD be the MVP for versus NRG. There you go. That's as many letters as I can squeeze into a sentence. What do you think? It is insane how many letters we do cram in with this, but it does make sense. We promise. Of course, giving IDDQD the most valuable player award. I think, yeah, that was kind of the recurring theme, gentlemen. What a game to cast. Again, another quick semi-final. We had it in Europe, and now we have it in North America. It makes us appreciate that first one all the same, all the more. John, I know you had like the adrenaline pumping when you finished casting that game. You absolutely loved that one.
Yeah, this is a little bit shorter than the first match we had. Just a teensy-weensy bit. And while there are commiserations to NRG, they obviously have some issues to sort out.
And we need to talk about this down here. You see it? This map, Dorado?
Yep.
Yeah, we need to talk about that because it was the quickest second half I have seen ZP. I mean, how insane was that?
That is the price you pay when you let the other team full hold you. It's incredibly hard to do the counter full hold. I think we've seen it maybe once, maybe twice in all of competitive Overwatch. It's incredibly rare to see that happen, especially now with the distance system. It happened a little bit more frequently before the distance system, but it's still rare. And unfortunately, like I said, it came down to this one fight where I would credit a lot of that to Stoop. NRG had a lot of ults going in their favor, and Stoop landed an incredible Earth Shatter, the drop Seagull, and drop a lot of the momentum that NRG had. And then their final push, they had to do it without a whole lot in the way of ults. They still made it exciting at the end, did more than they probably should have, given their ult situation. But in the end, NRG was not able to capitalize on their window. And that was it.
Yeah, NRG do fall. They look great in the quarters. Semis, they do fall very, very flat, like a pancake. However, the real kind of exciting aspect is that we get to see more of Fnatic, because that was a very exciting premise. Seeing Fnatic in that form, IDDQD, the fact that we have a player of the caliber of Buds, Cool Matt, and they fell into the shadows because of another individual. There's just a star-studded roster that we'll be seeing more of in just a moment. In fact, you're going to see more of them right now, because I'm going to go ahead and put the incredible play of the game, brought to you by the boys over at ROG. The Republic of Gamers have chosen. And I believe this is the man himself, Mr. Cheat Code. It is IDDQD. And I believe he's rocking, I think this might be a Tracer play. We saw him on McCree. We saw him on a plethora of different influential heroes. But this is him. We saw it before. He just bobbing and weaving. You can see the rewind here. Just get back into the grill of Junkrat. Closes that gap and continues to just rain down terror. The amount of damage he is outputting. I think Tracer, ZP, you're a master of the numbers. But isn't Tracer like the highest DPS? If you actually look at the numbers?
I think highest DPS would probably be Reaper. I might be wrong, but Tracer's damage is deceptively high up close, especially if you're landing headshots in the moment. It can just rip people apart. And that's the thing about Tracer, is that she can get to a situation where you're not paying attention to her in the backline, and she will effectively give you, and that's before even thinking about Pulse Bomb.
Yeah, and I mean, this is what's so crazy is upon face value, when you look at Tracer, you assume that you're getting behind them because it's public and you're having a bit of fun. But we are watching professional, like the best in the world competing, and we're still seeing Tracers get in the back line, go on unaddressed. It's kind of crazy. Maybe we'll be seeing more of that in our grand final, because that's what's coming up next, guys. ZP and Jurasar just guided you through that one. We'll be seeing more of these casters in just a moment. We do prepare for our grand final. TSM and Fnatic is coming up after the break, and one of these teams is going to be going ahead and joining the big dogs in the playoffs. Stay tuned.